If wealth could be crowned, what wisdom sits beneath the crown? Before the palace, the plumb line. Before applause, alignment. You have carried responsibilities that few see and fewer understand, and you've learned how noisy money becomes when the heart is tired. I see the way you scan the horizon for a path that is strong yet gentle, profitable yet clean, abundant yet anchored. You are not chasing tricks. You are guarding your house. You are asking for a way to prosper without losing the very self you are trying to provide for. That question is holy, and it deserves an answer that is both ancient and immediate. Solomon's story does not begin with treasure rooms. It begins with a request whispered in the quiet, wisdom first. He did not ask for long life, enemies' defeat, or glittering accounts. He asked for an understanding heart, the kind that hears beneath the noise and sees through the fog. There is a reason this order matters. When the inner world is disordered, wealth magnifies the chaos. When the inner world is ordered, wealth multiplies the good. Wisdom orders wealth, so wealth can serve wisdom. This is not a slogan. It is a sequence. It is breath before speech, foundation before walls, roots before fruit. You may feel it in your body even now. The tug-of-war between urgency and clarity. Urgency lives high in the chest, tight in the jaw, loud in the head. Clarity settles lower, steadier, quieter. Emotional neuroscience names the dance. When threat rises, the amygdala shouts and the hand reaches for quick relief. When safety returns, the prefrontal cortex opens and longer horizons become possible. In simple words, a calm nervous system makes wiser money. This is practical spirituality. Slow the breath, lengthen the view, let the mind come home to itself, and decisions begin to honor tomorrow as much as today. We are not escaping reality. We are preparing the instrument that must play in it. Prosperity for kings, prosperity for anyone called to steward more than themselves, requires a frame strong enough to carry weight without bending. It asks for a decision filter that refuses glitter and chooses gold. It invites counsel that multiplies perspective, because perspective is capital. It treats ethics not as decoration, but as an asset class that lowers risk and cost of capital. It insists on ordering cash flows before comforts, so that style never outruns substance. And it spreads provision across seasons, so a single failure cannot swallow the future in one bite. This is not harsh, it is merciful. Hard truths held with soft hands. You already know the symbols. Your soul has seen them in old pages and ordinary life. A plumb line that tells the truth even when our eyes want a shortcut. City gates where voices meet, challenge and refine, so blind spots don't become headlines. Scales that refuse to tilt because peace is expensive when fairness is cheapened. Fields sown before a house is furnished, so food is not a rumor in winter. Granaries in a ring, 7 yes 8, because storms never file a schedule. The beauty of these images is their touch on the senses. You can hear gates open, feel the weight in a scale, smell the vine after rain, run your hand along the cool stone of a silo at dusk. Wisdom wants your whole self engaged, not only your mind. If you have ever bought something to quiet a fear, you know how short relief can be. If you have ever delayed a purchase to fund an asset, you know how deep peace can grow. The body remembers both, the soul remembers both. So we will move slowly on purpose, through the order that Solomon lived. Wisdom before wealth, counsel before ego, justice before gain, fields before finery, reserves before risk. Not to impress, to endure, not to hoard, to serve. We are building a prosperity that survives seasons, strengthens families, and steadies the heart. We are building a prosperity that lets you sleep. As you listen, notice what stirs. Tension in the shoulders that signals an old fear, warmth in the chest that signals a yes, a small ache when a hard truth brushes past pride. None of that is here to shame you. All of it is information. Let it guide your attention like lanterns along a dark path. Where the breath loosens, linger. Where the jaw tightens, inquire. Where the heart lifts, Mark it. This is the inner counsel beginning to gather, the quiet gate where decisions will soon be vetted. By the end of this journey, the crown will not feel heavier, it will feel steadier. You will be able to measure before you build, invite the right voices before you commit, treat integrity as strategy, order flows before comforts, and diversify for the unknowns you cannot name. The world may call this old-fashioned. Kings called it survival. For you, it will sound like alignment. For those you serve, it will look like shelter. And for your own soul, it will feel like coming home. Before the palace, the plumb line. Before the rush of opportunity, the quiet measurement that does not flatter, does not bend, does not confuse shine with structure. You have felt the difference in your body, the deal that glitters and speeds your pulse, and the decision that steadies your breath because it is aligned even if it is not loud. Solomon's beginning is not a vault door swinging open. It is a prayer that asks for an understanding heart, for the capacity to discern between what merely pays and what truly prospers. In that ancient night, he chooses sequence over spectacle, wisdom first, then whatever follows, and the sequence still governs reality today. When the inner frame is crooked, wealth only multiplies the angle. When the inner frame is true, wealth becomes a servant to purpose, a channel, not a chain. Notice how the soul reacts to urgency. Urgency impersonates wisdom when fear is in charge. In the nervous system, threat compresses time, narrows vision, and pushes the hand toward relief. The amygdala, trying to keep you alive, even at the cost of the long view. Clarity widens the frame again. As calm returns, as breath deepens, and the prefrontal cortex wakes, the future becomes visible, and patience regains its voice. This is not an abstract lecture. It is practical spirituality. It is emotional neuroscience with sand on its feet. A calm mind measures straighter. A regulated body hears truth more readily. The plumb line is not only an image from stonework, it is a posture of attention inside your chest. There is a belief that money proves wisdom. It feels sharp, motivational, efficient, yet it reverses the order and punishes the heart. Money can be inherited, borrowed, lucked into, or momentarily captured by trend. Wisdom must be formed, asked for, cultivated through listening, counsel, correction. 1 Kings 3:9-13 does not celebrate the appearance of gold. It blesses the hunger for understanding. In other words, wealth is an app running on an operating system called wisdom, and an app cannot fix a corrupted OS. What does that sound like in daily life? It sounds like asking trade-offs before tallying returns. It sounds like naming the cost of hurry. It sounds like letting timing be part of truth. You may already be carrying a story in your memory, a moment when the numbers were sweet, but the alignment was sour, when a partnership promised reach, but smelled of hurry and harm. The body often knows before the spreadsheet does. Shoulders lift, jaw tightens, sleep thins. The plumb line, if you hold it still, will drop through the noise and tap the floor with a small, decisive sound. Not yet. Not like this. Or yes, but only with these boundaries, these guardrails, these pauses that keep the soul from being spent to decorate the deal. This is not timidity. It is courage, dressed as patience. Imagine the frame of a decision drawn gently in front of you. On one side, glitter, applause, speed, the thrill of being first, the seductive math of if not now, never. On the other side, gold, fit with purpose, integrity of terms, sustainability of cash flows, peace in the home you are trying to protect. A plumb line bisects the frame and dares you to notice what leans. Sometimes the lean is small and repairable, sometimes it is structural and hidden. The wise do not shame themselves for wanting, they simply measure the want against a larger truth. They ask what this choice will do to their attention, their sleep, their name, their ability to walk into their children's rooms with an untroubled face. Kings learn to price those things. There is also the matter of time. The palace dazzles now. The plumb line pays later. yet later has a way of arriving, and when it does, it asks questions that quick wins cannot answer. The vineyard planted earlier today will feed winter. The fair measure set at the scale will lower tomorrow's costs in ways only compound trust can reveal. The council gathered around the city gates will catch the flaw before it becomes a public wound. But none of these stand if the first move is wrong, if wisdom is treated as optional rather than foundational. Sequence is mercy. We do not delay out of fear. We delay to let the right yes ripen. A quiet model forms in the background, almost like a liturgy for the mind. Truth, trade-offs, timing. Truth asks what is real beyond the sales pitch, beyond the ego's need to be seen winning. Trade-offs ask what this decision will demand that cannot be given back. Attention, reputation, reserves of energy and grace. Timing asks whether the opportunity is calling now or whether it is only loud now. When those three align, the soul experiences a curious sensation. Not adrenaline, not lethargy, but a grounded readiness. That feeling is the sound of the plumb line finding center. Wisdom does not humiliate ambition, it heals it. The ambitious heart longs to build, to bless, to extend good through resources and reach. Wisdom equips that heart to endure its own success. Without measurement, success can split the beam that holds everything up. With measurement, success becomes shelter. You can feel the difference in language alone. The unmeasured plan says, I will get. The measured plan says, I will grow. One scrapes, the other cultivates. One spends the self, the other stewards the self. Kings are not afraid to be measured because they know what must stand when the crowd goes home. In this place, the rhythm sounds like 20-minute Proverbs drill daily plus journal 3 decisions with what is the wisest trade-off here? Not as punishment or performance, but as a way of tuning the instrument before the music begins. Ancient words wash the mind in patterns that favor patience, justice, prudence, mercy. Writing slows the hand that would otherwise sprint toward the nearest relief. 3 decisions a day become a training ground where the soul rehearses alignment before the stakes grow tall. Over time, the question itself becomes a doorway. What is the wisest trade-off here? Enter it, and the room you step into is quieter, clearer, more honest about costs, and yet more generous about outcomes that matter. There is a gentleness to this work that does not exclude strength. Measurement is not cold, it is kind. It saves you from the bitterness that follows rushed yeses. It returns you to your own center so that money is not asked to do what only meaning can. And it signals to your house, to your team, your family, your own body, that leadership here will be sane, that success here will be clean, that gain here will not be purchased with the coin of sleeplessness and shame. When the plumb line is trusted, the palace has a chance to stand, not just shine. At the city gates, the morning air holds the smell of bread and dust, and voices rise like swallows looping over stone. That is where matters of weight were considered. Not because stone makes minds wiser, but because witnesses make hearts careful. When plans meet other eyes, they change shape. The edges soften, the blind corners light up, the hidden cost steps forward and asks to be counted. Prosperity that serves more than one life requires more than one mind. What a single perspective calls obvious, a second calls risky, and a third uncovers as incomplete. The gain here is not noise. It is balance. It is the slow strength that keeps ambition from outrunning reality and keeps fear from shrinking a good future to the size of yesterday's wound. There is a reason ancient words insist that many advisors make victory sure and that plans unravel where counsel is thin. The heart alone can be brilliant, but it can also be tired, flattered, cornered by urgency, or dazzled by novelty dressed as destiny. Emotional neuroscience names the temptation. The brain rewards fresh possibility with a bright pulse of dopamine, and that light can throw long shadows over unseen risks. Another mind widens the lamp. Another voice asks the question that restores depth perception. What looks like resistance is often rescue, and what sounds like caution can be the courage to keep a name clean and a house at peace. A council worthy of a crown does not gather to admire the leader. It gathers to protect the mission. One chair belongs to the operator, who feels the weight of execution in the hands and in the calendar, who hears the squeak of gears where others only see a plan. Another chair belongs to the strategist, who keeps the horizon honest and maps the long river that small streams feed. A third chair belongs to the truth-teller, that rare soul who loves enough to say what is hard without wanting to wound. When these three breathe in the same room, reality sharpens. The numbers stop floating and take on grain and temperature. The future stops being a poster and becomes a field you can walk. Something sacred happens when a future is tested as carefully as a bridge. The conversation asks not only whether it could work, but how it could fail, and what failing would do to what matters most. This is the quiet bravery of imagining the worst while refusing despair. The nervous system feels the relief of being prepared. The prefrontal cortex hums as uncertainty is translated into plans, buffers, and boundaries. Fear loses some of its edges when a trap is named. Hope loses some of its naivete when a cost is counted. In that meeting, wealth stops being a prize and becomes a responsibility, and responsibility begins to feel less like a burden and more like an inheritance that deserves careful hands. It is easy to believe that strong people go alone and that solitude proves brilliance, yet isolation is an amplifier that turns every inner bias up 3 clicks. Confirmation bias grows loud, sunk cost attachment hardens into stubbornness. Pride learns to speak in the accent of certainty. A counsel does not silence vision, it tunes it. The operator grounds, the strategist stretches, the truth-teller purifies. Together, they create a rhythm that is firm without being brittle, flexible without being vague. The leader's chest loosens because the weight is distributed, and the team rests because the future is being watched by eyes that do not sleep at the same time. Picture a decision walking into the gates, wearing its finest clothes. The operator notices the shoes are new and will blister on a long road. The strategist notices the path chosen crosses a floodplain in spring. The truth-teller notices the smile hides a hunger for applause that could steer the wheel at the first sign of criticism. None of these observations kill the decision. They fit it for the journey. The sandals gain linen wraps. The path gets a bridge drawn on the map. The hunger is acknowledged and set beside a larger hunger for integrity and rest. What returns to the road is not smaller, it is steadier. In commerce, that steadiness reads as lower risk, clearer terms, fewer regrets. Sometimes counsel saves more than money. Sometimes it saves time, which is the currency with which families are funded and souls are healed. A founder stands at the edge of a glittering opportunity that would double revenue and halve sleep. The operator points to the calendar where birthdays and deadlines collide. The strategist sketches the year after next and asks whether the current culture would survive the strain. The truth-teller speaks softly about the thinness in the leader's tone and the way laughter has become rare. The room goes quiet, not from shame, but from recognition. What emerges is a yes shaped like pacing, or a no shaped like protection, or a later shaped like wisdom. These are victories that do not make headlines, and yet they make homes. When the old text says plans fail for lack of counsel, and victory is won through many advisors, it is offering more than superstition. It is describing how human minds work best when they borrow each other's strengths and interrupt each other's illusions. Perspective is capital. Skepticism, when it is loyal, is a gift. Agreement, when it is lazy, is a danger. And the mark of maturity is not the absence of mistakes, but the presence of voices that catch a slide while it is still a shiver. In the arithmetic of enduring prosperity, the cost of assembling wise companions is dwarfed by the price of public lessons learned in private too late. There is a quiet pattern that forms when counsel becomes habit. Before commitments grow teeth, the room imagines the places a plan could break. Before victory speeches are written, the group lets risk speak. Before signatures fix a story, the map is turned sideways and upside down, and the outliers are invited to the table. The effect is not paralysis, It is peace with eyes open, confidence with ears open, progress with hands open. Wealth that grows inside such a culture does not need to roar to prove it is strong. It simply stands storm after storm because its foundations were checked at the gates, and its future was loved enough to be questioned before it was pursued. The room is quiet enough to hear the click of metal as a weight settles, and the scales beam finds level like a held breath, finding calm. In the soft light, a signet ring presses into warm wax, leaving a mark that says, "What is promised here will be honored." This is the sound and texture of prosperity that can last, not the roar of a closing bell, but the steady music of fair measure. Ancient words call honest scales a delight and place a good name above heaps of silver, not to romanticize loss, but to reveal where real profit hides. Reputation is not decoration, it is infrastructure. When the measure is true, the storehouse fills without the leak that shame always cuts into the floor. There is a belief that integrity costs margin and that tight ethics are a luxury for the overfunded and the naive. The heart knows better even when the mouth argues. Every time the line bends, a hidden fee appears, attention splinters to manage the story, fear simmers about discovery, energy drains into spin, relationships thin under the weight of doubt. Emotional neuroscience offers words for the felt experience. Deception and corner-cutting increase cognitive load, raise stress signals, and narrow the field of vision. Honesty lowers that load, steadies the body, and widens the time horizon. In simple language, fairness helps the mind breathe. When the mind breathes, decisions grow patient. When decisions grow patient, outcomes compound. Trust is monetizable, though it never shows up as a single line item. It lives in lower customer acquisition costs because referrals walk in already warm. It lives in reduced churn because the promise matched the experience. It lives in friendlier terms from vendors who stop pricing in suspicion. It lives in legal budgets that do not bloat to police what a clean conscience would have prevented. It lives in the cost of capital, where lenders and partners rid integrity not as a halo, but as lowered volatility. The market, at its best, rewards what people feel in their bones. Straight dealing reduces risk, and risk is expensive. Imagine the signet pressing down again, this time on a contract whose clauses were written with both parties' children in mind. The language is clear, the timelines are honest, the penalties are real but not cruel. The data shared is guarded with the care you would want for your own name. A partner across the table exhales into the relief of being treated as a neighbor rather than a target. That exhale is not sentimental, it is cash in motion, because cooperative energy solves problems faster than adversarial posture, and speed without panic is profit powered by peace. A story lives in the grain of every wise enterprise, the month when revenue dipped and pressure rose, and a shortcut whispered its shiny logic. Numbers argued for leniency with the truth. Pride offered a speech about pragmatism. Then a different calculus entered the room, the one that prices sleep, family, and the kind of face that can look those you love straight in the eye. The scales were set. The measure stayed true. A call was made to a customer with words that were plain and brave. A vendor heard the facts rather than the spin and chose continued favor over punitive leverage. The short term did not sparkle, but the storehouse learned to hold more because the floor did not crack. There is a paradox here that leaders learn by walking it. Ethics feels slow at the start because shortcuts are fast. Then, time does its quiet work. The shortcut begins to cost in returns, repairs, rehires, reputation. The ethical path begins to pay in loyalty, learning, and leverage. What looked like delay becomes acceleration with fewer crashes. What looked like caution becomes courage measured by continuity. The soul registers the difference in the ease of laughter, the steadiness of pulse, the way Sunday night feels less like a cliff and more like a field at dawn. The scales and the signet are not only images, they are instruments that keep a name from being spent to decorate an income statement. When a culture is sealed by fairness, teams speak up sooner, customers forgive faster, Partners stay longer. Whispered confidence becomes a flywheel. They will tell you the truth. They will make it right. They will not sell you ease at the price of your peace. In the arithmetic of endurance, those whispers do more to fill the storehouse than 100 campaigns that shine and fade by quarter's end. Full storehouses are not only about volume, they are about grain that keeps. Wheat rots when gathered in panic and hidden in darkness. It keeps when harvested in rhythm, dried with care, and stored in air and light. So it is with profit. Money gathered by bending measure will not hold. It turns the color of worry and demands more bending to protect what was won in a hurry. Money gathered by honest scales can rest. It can be assigned to fields before finery, to reserves before risks, to investments that carry the weight of winters yet to be named. That is how wealth becomes quiet and strong. The heart may ask gently whether there are places where measure has leaned, pricing that confuses, promises made with fingers crossed against the timeline, data handled with less reverence than you would offer a letter from your own child, vendor terms squeezed in ways that win the week and lose the year. The question is not an accusation, it is a kindness. Every correction to the scale adds capacity to the storehouse. Every step toward clarity turns down the noise inside the chest and frees the mind to see farther than survival. When the day closes on a house where fairness has been kept, the air feels different. Tension loosens at the jaw. Sleep lands sooner. Plans for tomorrow do not require disguises. This is prosperity's interior, peace that does not apologize for being quiet, strength that does not need spectacle to prove it is real. Honest scales, full storehouses. The ring leaves its mark, the measure holds, and the future walks in without fear of what it might find. The vineyard does not hurry, and yet it is never idle. Earth opens, seeds disappear, rain speaks in a language older than speech, and time, quiet, faithful time, turns the hidden into harvest. There is an order here that the soul recognizes the moment it slows down enough to feel it. Work before display, roots before fruit, fields before finery. The body knows the difference too. When spending tries to dress a fear, the pulse climbs and the mind searches for applause. When resources are planted where they can grow, the breath settles as if the spine has found a chair that fits. This is prosperity's patient cadence. Not a denial of beauty, but a promise that beauty will not be asked to carry weight it cannot bear. Lifestyle pressure is a soft drum that grows louder when success visits. Signals arrive from every direction. Billboards, timelines, conversations that sparkle, each one suggesting that looking successful proves that success is safe. Yet the nervous system is a better accountant than the algorithm. It registers the thinness that follows purchases made to impress ghosts. Emotional neuroscience gives language to the ache. Novelty spikes dopamine, but maintenance costs cortisol. The first hit feels like oxygen. The carrying costs feel like a slow leak. Real relief comes when cash flows are ordered so that income first feeds fields that feed the future. In that order, joy is not postponed, it is protected. Preparing fields before building houses is not a rebuke of comfort. It is a blessing spoken to comfort so that it can last. A house finished on credit from tomorrow becomes anxious about tomorrow. A field seeded today becomes food for tomorrow. Quietly, a rule emerges that respects both seasons and souls. 70-20-10 rule for new income. 70% into productive assets, 20% operating reserves, 10% generosity. The numbers are simple enough to memorize and strong enough to hold against wind. They turn momentum into structure. They turn a good month into a better year. They turn the question from what can be displayed today to what will still be standing when the weather changes. There is tenderness in naming the pull toward finery. Beauty is not the enemy. Celebration is not waste. The soul is not made of spreadsheets. It needs music and color and moments that say life is more than labor. What wisdom guards against is the weight placed on those moments when they are purchased on the back of fragile flow. Beauty, meant to be a blessing, becomes a burden when it must justify itself every night in the ledger of worry. Order restores the blessing to its rightful place. First the field, then the feast. First the vineyard, then the vintage on the table where laughter is unforced and sleep arrives without negotiation. Consider how the senses respond when money becomes seed instead of costume. The hands feel tools that will still be useful next season. The eyes see accounts that do not tremble when a client delays. The ears catch a new kind of silence in the house at dusk, a silence that is not emptiness, but absence of panic. The heart recognizes a deeper wealth than the kind a camera can capture. Margin, options, time that can be given where it heals. In that space, generosity stops being an afterthought or a performance. It becomes part of the structure, built into the rhythm that keeps the field alive. A story often hides behind the desire to impress. Perhaps there was a season when scarcity humiliated the spirit, and comfort now tries to make a public correction. Perhaps approval became a currency traded for belonging, and purchases have been speaking a dialect of "see me." The body carries these memories, and money learns their grammar. Ordering cash flows is not merely accounting, it is healing. It tells the frightened places inside that provision is not a performance, and that love is not leased at luxury rates. With time, cortisol eases, breath lengthens, and the prefrontal cortex regains its quiet authority, allowing the future to be courted with care rather than chased in a sprint of image. The vineyard metaphor holds because it refuses to flatter. Planting is repetitive, waiting is unphotographed. Cultivation looks like 1,000 small corrections no one will clap for. Yet this is where durability is born, and durability has a beauty all its own. It is the calm in a leader's tone when a month lands light. It is the soft light in a home where bills are not hiding at the back of drawers. It is the way a team walks a little taller because their work funds assets that fund stability, that funds generosity. The harvest is not only fruit, it is the people who can enjoy it without fear. There is a sentence the soul learns to repeat until it becomes muscle memory. Not yet is not no. Delaying finery does not deny joy. It protects joy from being devoured by the obligation that follows hurried yeses. In markets and in homes, that sentence saves futures. It returns choice to the chooser. It allows a leader to say yes to a table set with beauty, because the fields beneath it are humming with growth, because reserves are speaking in a steady voice, because the generosity column is alive and well. This is not austerity. It is abundance arranged in an order that lets it breathe. When night falls on a land tended in this way, the air carries a scent of earth cooling after sun. The mind does not rehearse imaginary arguments with creditors. The chest does not tighten at the thought of small shocks. Even celebration feels different. Unforced, unafraid, unhooked from the need to prove anything. Fields before finery, order cash flows, then comforts. The vineyard rests, the house stands, and the people under its roof discover that prosperity's sweetest flavor is peace. Not every season honors a single stream. Rivers swell and shrink, winds shift without apology, and one bright source can turn thin under a sky that looks unchanged to the untrained eye. That is why the old wisdom speaks in the language of granaries arranged in a circle. 7, yes 8, each with its own door, each keeping a different portion of the harvest safe from a different kind of weather. This is not caution dressed as fear, it is love learning to protect what it has been given. When provision is spread across vessels, the heart stops bracing for a single point of failure, and the body, so often drafted to be an early warning system, finally breathes in a slower rhythm. Concentration feels brave because it looks like conviction, and the world loves the pose of all in. Yet beneath the drumbeat of courage, the nervous system carries a small quake. The amygdala listens for threats at the edges of a single stream and keeps the whole house on alert. Sleep turns shallow. Laughter arrives late. Even winds feel fragile because one crack in one pipeline can echo through every room. Diversification does not silence vision, it steadies it. The prefrontal cortex, relieved of the job of constant firefighting, regains the width to imagine, plan, and adjust. Attention, the most exhausted currency of modern life, can return to doing its finest work, seeing farther than the next invoice. Granaries are not built to be impressive, They are built to be faithful. Each bin holds its own purpose, its own temperament, its own promise. One carries the grain born of your core skill, the craft or leadership or service that is your native river. Another holds equity, stakes in value that grows while you sleep. Another keeps fixed income modest but steady, the sound of rain on a roof when the wind rises. Cash lives in its own space, quick to reach, cool to the touch. Real assets, land, tools, structures, anchor the abstract to the earth. Venture and high risk sit in a separate chamber where their storms can thrash without soaking the rest. Education and the wisdom fund are a bin for the mind's harvest because the return on understanding compounds across every other stream. And generosity, its own granary, paradoxically enlarges the others by keeping the soul from shrinking around its possessions. There is a sentence that reads like a ledger and a prayer at once. Map 7 to 8 streams across: core skill income, equity, fixed income, cash, real assets, venture, high risk, education, wisdom fund, generosity fund. Read it slowly, and the body hears a promise inside the numbers. The promise is not of immunity. No field is stormproof. The promise is of elasticity. If one stream narrows, another keeps singing. If equity sleeps, cash wakes. If venture thrashes, fixed income rocks you gently. If a client delays, your core skill still feeds, and the real asset keeps working in the background like a mill turning grain while you tend to other labors. The soul recognizes the music of both and the jaw unclenches because survival is no longer balanced on a single reed. Sometimes the lesson arrives as a story told in a quiet voice. A leader rode one horse hard, one client, one platform, one market, because the sprint felt noble and the praise felt like fuel. Then a policy changed, or a season shifted, or a phone call never came. The numbers were honest in their coldness. Panic tried to sign its name across the calendar. What saved the house the next time was not a louder sprint, but a wiser stable. The work of 2 years added new streams that did not demand the same weather. And the next shock found a house with more doors open to more kinds of provision. What had once been a cliff became a hill. Still steep, but walkable without the heart tearing itself to pieces. Diversification is not merely arithmetic, it is spiritual formation. A solitary stream often feeds the ego as much as the budget, because identity fuses with a single proof of worth. Multiple streams teach a softer truth. Worth is not wages, identity is not a ticker, and calling is larger than any one channel. This loosening is holy. It makes leaders gentler with themselves and braver with the future. They can say yes and no without the tremor that comes from confusing a decision with a self. Emotional neuroscience observes the change. When safety increases, creativity returns. When the body stops bracing, curiosity and play re-enter the room where strategy is written. The decisions that follow are better, not because the mind is smarter, but because the heart is less afraid. Even the mathematics of generosity alter the climate inside the house. When a portion flows outward by design rather than by impulse, scarcity loses its talent for theater. The gift says to fear, "You are not the only storyteller here." Paradox answers by opening a window somewhere reasonable accounting could not find. A vendor offers terms unasked. A partner introduces a client unearned. A problem costs less than expected because people held you with favor in their minds when they could have folded their arms. None of this is a vending machine. It is the soft physics of trust. Yet trust belongs in the conversation about streams because it influences the weather in which those streams run. Year by year, the circle of granaries teaches patience. Some bins fill quickly and sing loudly, others rise quiet and slow. Pride will try to compare volumes. Fear will try to close the doors that do not dance on command. Wisdom keeps walking its rounds. It listens for pests, the small leaks of distraction and the larger leaks of compromise. It adjusts measures without drama, reallocating when the season asks. It lets winners run and trims where the story has changed. And in that gentle, steady tending, wealth begins to change shape from something that must be guarded to something that can safely guard. The posture shifts from clutching to stewarding, from proving to preserving, from impressing to providing. There is a peace particular to houses with many streams. Storms still pass overhead, news still startles, markets still roar and sleep, but anxiety in such a house does not spread like fire. It moves, it is named, and then it finds itself surrounded by provisions that do not share a single fate. Children notice the atmosphere first. Laughter returns sooner after tough days. Meals keep their warmth even when emails carry chill. Leaders notice it next. Decisions are made with clearer eyes because they are no longer auditions for survival. Teams notice it last, but they feel it longest because stability tastes like dignity at work. When evening light touches the circle of bins, each door carries its own story, each store its own future. 7, yes, 8. Diversify like a king, steward like a sage. The streams hum together in a low chorus that sounds like endurance. And endurance, sung long enough, begins to sound like joy that does not fear winter. Morning arrives like a quiet page, and the house holds its breath while the day decides who it will be, which is why a gentle rhythm matters more than a loud promise, because order softens anxiety and turns hope into something the body can feel in its shoulders and in its sleep. The week does not need spectacle to become sacred. It needs a pulse that keeps the gates watched, the scales true, the vineyard tended, and the granaries filling in their slow, faithful way. In this light, practice stops sounding like punishment and starts sounding like music, and music, when it repeats with purpose, settles the nervous system and gives the mind the longer view that money and meaning both require. There is a sentence that steadies the room and sounds like tuning an instrument before a symphony begins. 20-minute Proverbs drill daily, plus journal 3 decisions with what is the wisest trade-off here. The words land with the weight of calm rather than command, and as they land, the breath lengthens because the mind recognizes a path that is simple, repeatable, and kind to attention, which emotional neuroscience affirms by showing how short, deliberate reflection widens prefrontal bandwidth and lowers the noise that urgency loves to amplify. The plumb line appears in that quiet, and alignment stops being a theory and becomes a felt experience, as if the spine lengthened by a single invisible inch. Another sentence enters like the sound of hinges at the city gates as the morning opens to more than one voice. Form a 3-person council, operator, strategist, truth-teller, pre-mortem every major move. The cadence is communal, the rhythm protective, and in the body it feels like shoulders being joined by other shoulders, so the same weight no longer bites so sharply into one place. This is not a committee for theater, but a frame for reality, where dopamine sparks of novelty are balanced by the clear eyes of those who measure cost, pace, and purpose, and where the leader's nervous system is allowed to trade hypervigilance for grounded readiness. The day walks toward the scales now, and the room cools with the shade of honesty, because nothing drains energy like pretending not to know what we know. The words that follow enter like a seal pressed into warm wax. Quarterly integrity audit, pricing, promises, data use, vendor terms. Publish 1 transparency metric. In the body, this sounds like exhale, because cognitive load drops when stories match facts, and in the ledger it looks like invisible savings, lower churn, kinder terms, fewer fires started by sparks of concealment, while in the soul it tastes like a name that can be said aloud without flinching. The path slopes gently toward the fields, and sunlight begins to feel like arithmetic that loves the future. The line is simple, memorable, and impossible to misunderstand. 70-20-10 rule for new income, 70% into productive assets, 20% operating reserves, 10% generosity. The nervous system registers safety when reserves are named, purpose when assets are fed, and joy when giving is not an afterthought. And under that threefold shelter, the impulse to prove begins to soften into the desire to provide, which is what prosperity has always wanted to become when it is allowed to grow up. Evening moves around the circle of granaries, and each door hums with its own weather, while the heart listens for resilience rather than drama. Then the sentence that sounds like a map and a blessing arrives. Map 7-8 streams across. Core skill income, equity, fixed income, cash, real assets, venture high risk, education, wisdom fund, generosity fund. The body hears elasticity in those words, and as elasticity replaces fragility, sleep becomes thicker, laughter returns sooner after hard hours, and imagination, which fear had exiled to the far edges, walks back into the room where decisions are made and asks honest questions without needing to shout. When these lines are allowed to live inside a week, like movements inside a single piece of music, repetition becomes strength rather than boredom, and the house acquires a personality that can be trusted in storms, because the soul does not need novelty to believe it is alive. It needs meaning it can touch. The old symbols return to confirm the work without fanfare. The plumb line hanging straight, while the script of wise trade-offs fills a page in careful handwriting. The gates standing open, while 3 chairs keep watch over assumptions and pace. The scales balanced while numbers and names match. The vineyard absorbing today's rain so that tomorrow's table will not be empty. The granaries filling at different speeds so that one bad season cannot swallow a future. And in that steady choreography, prosperity stops being a chase and becomes a home that holds. At dusk, a young ruler walks the perimeter of a city he is still learning to love. In his hand hangs a small plumb line, not decorative, not impressive, just faithful. He stops where a wall has begun to tilt and watches the string find the earth's pull, steady and indifferent to hurry. He does not curse the lean. He breathes, listens and marks the stone. A little farther on, he passes the city gates where 3 chairs wait in the long gold light, one carved by hands that know how plans feel in the calendar, one shaped for eyes that read the map beyond the hill, and one left plain for the friend who speaks truths that sting and then heal. Their empty seats make a promise: you will not carry this alone. He walks on. Beyond the gates, a merchant lays out weights worn smooth by good years. The ruler pauses to watch the beam settle, and he notices a small thing. When both pans hold what is right, the whole room relaxes, as if even the wood in the table remembers that justice is lighter to carry than cleverness. He thinks of the long cost of secrets and of the sleep that arrives sooner, when words match numbers. Then the path slopes toward the vineyards outside the city, Rose breathing out the sweetness of a day that asked for patience and got it. Leaves touch leaves in a sound softer than speech, and the ruler understands again that the field laughs last, and that laughter is not loud, it is deep. Night comes on with the comfort of warm stone, and the circle of granaries appears like quiet sentinels. 7, yes 8, each door a different note in a low song. He rests his palm against one and feels the cool stored inside. A stream thinned this week, another ran stronger. None bore the full weight alone. The city will eat, and the children will dream without eavesdropping on fear. The ruler closes his eyes and hears a single sentence rise through the many images like a clear bell in a friendly wind. Wisdom orders wealth, so wealth can serve wisdom. Not a slogan, a sequence. Breath before speech, foundation before walls, roots before fruit. In the story that follows him home, the ruler does not become a legend because of speed or spectacle. He becomes a shelter because he keeps the order that keeps people whole. He measures before he builds, so the palace can stand. He invites voices to the gates, so the future is loved enough to be questioned. He honors true weight at the scales, so profit arrives clean. He tends fields before finery, so comfort does not collapse under its own shine. He stores across many doors, so storms lose their talent for theater. These are not 5 tricks. They are 5 rooms in one house where peace can live. When he reaches his door, the plumb line knocks softly against his wrist like a friend reminding him who he is. He smiles without performance. The city sleeps behind him with the easy breath of people who do not know the names of all the problems solved on their behalf, and that anonymity feels right. He leaves the plumb line by the lamp, the way some leave a prayer by the bed, and the words return one more time, not loud, not demanding, just true enough to carry into morning. Wisdom orders wealth, so wealth can serve wisdom. Which order must I restore this week? The room grows quiet in the best way, like a sanctuary after the final note, and what remains is the steady warmth of meaning well placed. A journey has unfolded from the plumb line to the gates, from the scales to the fields, from the circle of granaries to the soft bell of order, and the heart can feel the difference between noise and guidance. Community forms easily around this kind of work because it respects both strength and tenderness, and because prosperity, when it becomes clean, longs to become shared. The air carries that feeling now, the sense of people gathering not to perform, but to keep each other whole. Some find that a single irreversible move rises to the surface as the dust settles, a boundary to honor, a sequence to restore, a stream to begin, and the comment space often becomes a safe table for naming it, a place where accountability wears gentleness and insight multiplies without spectacle. Others prefer quiet, carrying the sentence inward and letting it shape the week from the inside out. Both paths belong here. The aim has never been applause, it has been alignment. And alignment has many ways of speaking. For those who want this rhythm to continue as a steady companion, this channel holds a weekly cadence where Solomonic practice lives close to daily life. Simple, honest, repeatable, anchored in wisdom that refuses to trade peace for speed. Remaining near to that cadence tends to keep the nervous system calmer and the horizon longer, which is how prosperity learns to breathe. And when a name appears in the mind, a colleague, a friend, a partner quietly shouldering more than they say, passing this along sometimes becomes part of their shelter, the kind of gift that travels farther than words can measure. A doorway opens just ahead, and its lintel carries a quiet inscription, decision filters that keep the crown from tilting. The next chapter continues the same spirit, practical, spiritual, sane, so that choices made in bright rooms do not collapse in dark ones. Nearby waits a collection for those who wish to linger, a gathered set of teachings for leaders who prefer depth to noise and longevity to flashes of heat. There is room in that library for slow rereads, for notes in the margin, for the kind of reflection that turns knowledge into wisdom. As the frame fades, the old sentence returns to stand watch at the threshold like a lantern that neither shouts nor dims. Wisdom orders wealth, so wealth can serve wisdom. That order keeps a city at rest. That order lets a house laugh without apology. That order allows ambition to heal into service and gain to mature into generosity. May the week ahead carry that order quietly under every decision, like a steady hand at the small of the back.